back to my channel, and if you're new here, then welcome. My name is Maddie, and today I'll be reacting to negative reviews of Fruits Basket. I remember a few years back when I was still on BookTube, there would be videos, it was kind of a trend, to react to negative reviews of your favorite books, and I actually had tried a video like that out before, and it was very interesting, and I thought it would be even more interesting to do that with Fruits Basket because, as I've said so many times, Fruits Basket is my favorite story of all time, so reacting to negative reviews is probably going to be something. For the most part, I feel like Fruits Basket is loved by 95% of its readers and viewers. That's the kind of consensus I find. Every once in a while, I will see a negative review about it, and it's always so intriguing because I think so highly of this series, so it's very fascinating that someone would have such a huge different opinion of mine. So I kind of want to try this out and intentionally look up negative reviews and see what I think about them. And just a disclaimer, I'm not going to attack anyone who has a negative opinion about Fruits Basket. Stories are subjective. Not everyone is going to like a story. We all have different opinions, and that is fine. So this video is just for fun. I'm not going to rip these reviewers apart, I just want to see their differing opinions from mine. Although if I do see any negative opinions about Kiyo, it is going to be a little hard for me to take because we know how much I love him. So that might crush me a little, but you know, if it happens, it happens, and I'm not going to attack anyone for it. I'm just going to have a hard time understanding why they wouldn't like him because he's so great. And quick warning, a lot of these reviews do contain spoilers for the manga and anime, so just be aware of that. If you don't want to be spoiled, if you have not read the manga or seen the anime and are trying to avoid spoilers, you probably want to skip over this video. So let's just get started. I'm going to go on Goodreads first and look up negative reviews of the manga, and then later on in this video I'll look up negative reviews of the anime, just so we can see both the manga and anime reviews. So let's start with the manga. I'm going to look up the reviews for volume 1 first, and let's see how it goes. Okay, this review is actually going to be pretty interesting because I actually know this reviewer, like not personally, but she used to be a booktuber, and back when I was first getting into booktube, I would watch a lot of her videos, and I was a huge fan of her videos, so for me to see her give a negative review to Fruits Basket, it's hard to take a little bit. But I think that'll make this review all the more interesting, so let's see it. So it starts, "This was a boring hot mess. I never read this as a kid, and I definitely haven't watched the anime, but I heard that this was really good from a lot of people. I'm so let down. Hurts to see. None of the characters were named or fleshed out. The plot is non-existent, there's absolutely no emotion to this, and the scenes skip around so much that I could never tell where we were or what was happening. It genuinely felt like I just skipped to the 5th book of a series because I had no idea what was supposed to be happening." Interesting, huh? I never felt like it actually, like the pacing skipped around a lot. We'll get to that in a minute, let me just finish this. "I almost DNF'd this, and finishing it just secured its status as something that totally isn't my taste." Understandable. "I'll definitely be trying more manga from the library in the future until I figure out what my taste is in the genre because this is only the 3rd one I've read." Oh yeah, there's so many manga out there. I hope she has found something that she does like. Sadly, it wasn't Fruits Basket, which hurts to see, but you know, like I said, not everyone is going to love the same stories, so it's just the way it is. So she said none of the characters were named or fleshed out, which is so funny because I feel like Fruits Basket has the most well-developed characters ever. But this is only a review of the 1st volume of the manga. So I'm kind of I don't know if she did do this, but I'm hoping she did continue on to the rest of the volumes because that's when you really get to see these characters fleshed out and developed. You're not going to get that a lot from the 1st volume. I'm guessing she probably didn't. Based on this review, it looks like she probably didn't continue the series, but I kind of wish she would have. Oh man. Oh well. And the scenes skip around so much. Now, the 1st season of the anime and the 1st few volumes of the manga, there is a lot of skipping about because we're getting introduced to so many characters early on in the series. We're getting introduced to all the zodiacs, so I totally understand that it feels like whiplash, that we're just going from character to character to character, and nothing really seems cohesive at first. It's only towards the middle of the series where an actual plot starts to happen. So, like I've said, and like many fans have said about this series, you just have to wait it out. And I know that sucks to have to wait for a plot to actually happen, but once it starts happening, that's when it gets good. So yeah, I'm sad about this one, especially because I'm a huge fan of this booktuber, and that sucks that she didn't like it, but it's alright. A lot of the things she mentioned were really, really understandable and valid of why she didn't like it, so I'm totally okay with it. Now I want to look up reviews of the final volume, because I think reviews for the final volume, we're going to see what people thought of the overall story and not just the first volume where we're only getting introduced to stuff. So I thought it'd be pretty intriguing to look up reviews of the final volume, which there are barely any negative reviews of volume 23. There's only 71 one-star reviews and 172 two-star reviews, and compared to that there are 8,055 five-star reviews. So a lot of people love the final volume, which the final volume is incredible, so totally not a surprise there. There actually are no written reviews on Goodreads for the one-star reviews, only for the two-star reviews, so we're going to look at the two-star reviews. Okay, we'll do the first one that's on here. It says, the final volume to the very popular Fruits Basket series. First of all, it's hard to believe that it's been 5 years since I first started this series. Wow! We love long-term fans. However, as finales go, this felt somewhat more of a postscript than a true, genuine ending. For the most part, the previous volume aptly served the purpose of a finale, with most, if not all, the major plot points being resolved. This volume, if anything, is more of a volume-long thank you to the fans from the author to give them a glimpse of how things turned out in the long run. All in all, just extra gravy for the goose. Since this is the last volume and more of a gift to the fans, this should only be recommended to hardcore fans and completionists. Okay, this makes a lot of sense. Like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. The final volume really is the entire resolution of the manga. I do feel like in volume 22, that's when all the conflict happens, and volume 23 is the resolution. So I totally understand if volume 23 just feels like fluff for no reason, because yeah, that is basically what it is. Like, this review totally makes sense, but I don't mind meaningless fluff in Fruits Basket. Like, give it to me. I eat that stuff up. But I can totally understand how you wouldn't be into that and would just see volume 23 as like, oh, you know what, this was unnecessary. So I understand where they're coming from. Wow. I'm like sympathizing with a lot of these reviews so far. I didn't even expect that to happen. But I'm like, you know what? Yeah, you make sense. Let's see if there's any other reviews for volume 23 that are more like tea, I guess. There are not many 2-star reviews, like written ones, for volume 23. I love to see it. Let's see. This one says, the series went downhill in the middle, but had to buy the last one so I could see what happened. I didn't feel like it went downhill in the middle. I think the middle is where it picked up, so interesting opinion there. I feel like not a lot of people think that. Okay, so we're going to move on from the manga and look up negative reviews of the anime. So let's start with season 1. And there are a lot of long reviews for the anime, so this might take a moment, but let's just look into it. So this one gave the anime a rating of 2 out of 10, so that is pretty low. So it's a long one, so sit tight. Let's start it. To be honest, I didn't think I would be writing this review. I think that means I didn't think I would be writing this review. After episode 1, I was thrilled for next week's episode to come. Episode 1 of the series is almost word for word of the original, which was what made me hopeful for this new series. Then episode 2 came and it was fair, but it didn't quite live up to the expectations of the previous episode. Then it kept getting worse, much worse. I thought episode 2 was so good, but it's because it has Kiyo in it a lot, so my bias is there. Okay, so this is about the art. Now let's get out the art and animation out of the way. It's pretty, but that's about it. It doesn't add anything or even begin to salvage how bad this reboot is. I cannot excuse some pretty frames for an awful execution. Most of the time the art is only pretty when it wants to be. There are countless frames that look ugly and sometimes downright scary. That's mostly a problem in far-away shots. Not to mention, this new art doesn't fit very well with the show's comedic moments. Well, when there is any, and I'll get to that. Okay, So the art, I agree with this person that some shots look wonky. I've always thought that about the animation. Like, the animation has such beautiful shots in it sometimes, but there have been shots, especially the distant shots of things, that just look a little weird. So I completely understand that. I've had that same issue too, but I feel like the beautiful shots make up for the bad ones because there's so many stunning frames in this anime, so it makes up for it to me. Now we go on to the sound. I don't really have a lot to say about the sound other than I don't like it. The music is nothing special, and the OPs and EDs are pretty sucky, especially the first OP. I have an extreme dislike for that one. There is also one background track that the show uses during dramatic scenes that feels really unfitting and makes whatever dramatic moment that is occurring less shocking. That track honestly makes the scene less dramatic. I wish I knew what track they were talking about, but I guess we'll never know. I actually love the OST. I love it a lot more than the OST from the original. The original OST felt so comedic, which I guess fit the tone because the OG anime was more comedy based, but I feel like the OST for this reboot is just so perfect. So many great songs that I love. So many of the tracks they reuse over and over again, but I don't even mind because they're so pretty to me. So I have no problems with the OST. I thought it was great. Alright, this one might hit me hard because they go into the characters, and you know how much I love these characters, so I'm a little nervous. Hatsuharu is the same way that prove that your real hair color scene is no longer as effective in pulling a laugh from me or anyone else to show to it. So you can't go into the original anime expecting it to be huge on the comedy because that's not the way the author intended it to be. The original anime amped up the comedy when that's not even what the main purpose of Fruits Basket was. It was never meant to be a comedy. It was supposed to be a drama. The OG anime messed that up. And so that's why with this reboot, it was such a blessing to get a more dramatic and serious adaptation of the manga, which is the way it was supposed to be. So of course the, prove your real hair color scene isn't going to be overly comedic. It's a lot more subtle in its comedy, which I loved. I love the adaptation of that scene in the reboot so much because it was just so subtle with the comedy. Like, it still packed a punch, though, to me, so I completely disagree with that. I love the way that scene was animated in the reboot. Okay, moving on, it gets worse. Now let's talk about Kiyon Yuki. Oh my god, this is gonna hurt. Oh my god. The old Kyo, the hot-headed but soft-hearted Kyo, has been replaced. Has been replaced by what you may be asking? Well, he's been replaced by a straight-up asshole. No! Oh my god, no. Okay. He's mean to essentially everyone, even Toru, and doesn't seem to give a crap about anyone around him. This new Kyo doesn't give me a reason to care about him or anything he wants to achieve. What? How is he more of an asshole? I feel like he's so, like, there's so many endearing moments with him in season 1. Like, I don't feel like that at all. Like, are we forgetting the rooftop scene before, what is it, when they go to the inn? Are we forgetting how sweet he was there? Or, like, the true form arc? Although, he did lash out a few times, so I can kind of understand why you think he was, like, a jerk during that. But he was also so sweet as well when he hugged Toru. Like, are we forgetting all that? Oh my god. I don't feel that way at all. I don't understand. And this isn't the first person who's called him, like, a jerk. I'm just like, you know what? You gotta understand, behind all that, he lashes out because he's hurting, which doesn't make it okay, but he is aware of the fact that he's an ass. He knows that. And he's trying to fix it, and it's the effort that counts. And in the end, as we know, he does improve himself. He wants to stop hurting people. He never wants to hurt anyone. And he grows and gets better. He, like, puts in the effort to better himself. That's what counts. So, that hurt scene. I feel like Yeah, this is, like I said, I'm really going to probably rip people apart for not liking Kiyo, even though I said I was going to try not to. But I feel like everyone who says that Kiyo is a jerk just really, really does not understand his character. And I am sorry for saying that, but that's how I've always felt. You have to look beyond his jerky side to really understand why he is the way he is, and understand that he does try to grow. And I think that's amazing. Like, he's amazing for wanting to improve himself. That one hurt. Okay, so then they go into Yuki. Yuki is just as bad. And I love Yuki too, so this hurts. The sarcastic and satirical Yuki we all knew and loved has been replaced by a dry cracker. Look, it's the opposite. I feel like he was more sarcastic and snarky in the reboot than he was in the original. So it's like the other way around for me. In the original, he was so bland and boring. This new Yuki has zero character, whose jokes always fall flat. This new Yuki has nothing. He's a cracker. What does a cracker mean? I'm sorry, what does a cracker mean? A stale cracker that's out of date. Okay, I get the analogy now. Kiyon Yuki have some sort of trauma, but I don't even know what it is because it's only briefly implied. We go into it in later seasons. You have to kind of wait for that. So I don't know the true extent of it. Like, Yuki's backstory just seems like Akito painted freaking Picasso on the walls and it somehow scarred him. Like I said, we go more into that. You gotta wait. They go into more, but this is really long, so I'm gonna skip to the story. The story suffers greatly because of the characters. The plot just kind of happens and nothing feels genuine. The story doesn't feel like it has an antagonist, and there's really only one protagonist with a bunch of extras. What do you mean? Akito is the antagonist, and he shows up not as much in season 1, but enough to know that he's the antagonist, or she, because we're going over spoilers, I forgot. The story of the old anime goes as follows. A girl learns that a family is cursed and she goes down a path she never expected, learning new things about herself and those around her, while ultimately accepting the curse as a new part of her life. You see, that sounds great, and that's what the old anime accomplished. This new anime, however, I don't even know what it's trying to do. The story feels like it has pacing issues. It goes fast and then it slows down. Every element to the plot feels out of place as well. There's comedy, but only where you least expect it. The actual comedic moments in the show aren't funny, not even close. The funny moments come from the dramatic moments. Whenever one comes on, I burst out in laughter because of how poorly they are handled. Like when Momiji's mom tried to commit suicide, well, when she tried to stab herself, this big bass drum pounds. The music also makes the moment funny because right when whatever is shocking is shown, all you hear is a bass drum pounding once. The bass drum is so random, and it makes the scene funny. I don't feel that way at all. Like, every anime uses sound effects to, like, an advantage. So, okay, that doesn't make it funny at all. The only thing I enjoy about this show is how bad it is. I only come back weekly to see if the new episode can stoop even lower than their last. I don't recommend to anyone who hasn't watched the old one. If anyone is saying the show is a masterpiece, then they haven't watched the old one. If you get anything from this review, watch the old one if you haven't. Okay, that is just so... I'm, like, fascinated by this, because the main consensus by everyone is that the old one sucked so bad. It's such a terrible adaptation. It got so many things wrong based on the manga, but the reboot just did so many things right. It just accurately portrayed the manga. So it's just like the fact that they're recommending to watch the old one instead. I've never seen anyone ever recommend someone watch the old anime over the new one. Like, wow, I never thought I'd see that. So wow, this review got to me. It did. Especially them calling Kiyo an asshole. That hurt so bad. Oh my god. A lot of these opinions I really, really disagree with. In comparison to the Goodreads reviews where I could totally understand why they thought the way they did. In this review, I understand none of this. I don't understand where they're coming from. And that's just me. We just have totally different opinions. So this was an interesting review. I got a little heated at some point. Okay, so we're going to look at one more review, and I want to look up reviews for the final season. So like with volume 23, we can see if more of these reviews talk about the overall story and not just season 1, where there's only so much information given because we haven't gotten deeper into the story yet. And I have expressed my opinion of season 3. I thought it lacked in a lot of areas, so I might end up agreeing with some of these reviews. If these reviewers are also manga readers, then I might just agree. So let's see. Okay, this review is also pretty long, so let's get into it. I told some of my friends at the start of the season that if this series tries to redeem Akito or make her seem like a victim due to some BS tragic backstory, I'm gonna rate this a 1 and well. Oh, we know where this is going. The final season, like, I don't feel like Akito is truly redeemed at all. And I've seen this opinion a lot, but let's continue. Fruits Basket is a series I really do love. Both season 1 and 2 were amazing, and I was hyped for this season. Well, that's great they still liked season 1 and season 2. However, throughout the amazing wholesome moments of this final season, there were also as many comically bad moments as well. This series does many irritating things, writing such badly written villains, aka the parents. They are all written with no substance and all feel like a surface level evil needed to give every character some tragic backstory which makes them vulnerable and emotionally unstable. How every character blames themselves for everything that happens to not just themselves but others is annoying. How Akito seems to get away with all the years of abuse and torment she causes everyone, and everyone doesn't seem to want retribution at all at the end is also annoying. And every character just takes the abuse and says nothing, even when Akito literally almost killed 3 people. Rin, who she tried to kill once, Kurano, and Toru, though that one can be debated as just a scared child throwing a tantrum. Okay, so I get what they're saying a little bit here. I do feel like all the evil parents kind of blend together, and we don't go enough into their motivations for lashing out at their children and neglecting them, other than the fact that they're a part of the Zodiac, so they just automatically hate them, you know? So I understand that a little bit. That is kind of a gripe I have with the parents. I just feel like they're a little not as executed as they should be, so that I understand. I also do understand feeling like Akito didn't get enough punishment, because she really doesn't. Realistically, Akito should be in jail. And the fact that she isn't is really, really weird. It is. I'm just like, how is this chick not in jail? But she also is never off the hook either. She faces a lot of resentment from the family. A lot of them won't talk to her. She's treated really badly. So, you know, she still faces consequences, but not as much as she should have, because she almost killed several people in the family. Like, she should definitely be in jail. So I understand that. During the episode where Kiyo talks to his dad about wanting to live and wanting to love Toru, I couldn't help but laugh. What? His dad was just so pathetically written. And his sole purpose was to be the catalyst to all of Kiyo's core emotional issues. Yelling and screaming at Kiyo, saying every bad thing he can say, like his life depends on it, and when Kiyo grabs his arm and his dad starts yelling for his life, I couldn't help but pause the episode and die inside of both cringe and laughter. Okay, that scene is really cringy. Like, his dad is so cringeworthy. We're just like, get a hold of yourself. Like, what is wrong with you? So I understand finding that hilarious, because his dad is, it's just like, he's just not right in the head. Like, we know that. Acceptance and blame. Every character seems to accept everything bad and the bad things people do, and the characters don't blame them but blame themselves. No one calls out anyone for their bullshit and lets them get away with it as they continue to suffer. When Akito pushes Rin out the balcony and then locks her up, starves her, and abuses her to the point where she almost dies, the only one who did anything toward Akito was Haru, who almost punched her but stopped and walked away, but he almost came back to her before Kurano stopped him and he went to Rin. Besides him, no one else seemed to even be angry. Toru was never told, but even if she was, she would have still forgave Akito and not be the slightest bit angry towards Akito and find some way to blame herself for it. Okay, yeah, everything pertaining to Akito I have always agreed with, and it's it's been things I've been afraid to say, because there are some Akito stans out there who I'm even friends with, so it's hard to say, you know, bad things about Akito. But I do feel like these characters, yeah, they don't, like, stand up for themselves enough. But that also has to do with their upbringing. They're vulnerable, and they've fought through their childhood so much and have just been beaten down so much that they just don't have any fight left in them, and that's totally understandable. It goes with their mental health issues and all of that, so they're just scared, and rightfully so. And I think we're also forgetting here, I think what they're forgetting is that these zodiacs cannot stand up to Akito. They physically cannot. It's the curse that makes them so that they can't. They have to obey God. So they can't. So you have to push that aside. That has to do with the curse and their inability to not be able to stand up to Akito because of the curse. Toru, though, she's not a part of the zodiac. So I understand being like, why won't she, like, hate Akito? But it has to do with Toru's inability to just be mad at anyone because she's so kind-hearted. And it is really hard to watch her in, what is it? I forget what episode. But when she's confronting Akito before the cliff scene, she falls off the cliff, it's hard to watch her extend that forgiveness because we want to, like, at least the non-Akito stans, we don't like Akito. So we want her to be, you know, more firm with Akito and tell her that she's done terrible things and beat her down for it. So I understand kind of being annoyed at Toru for not doing that. I, for one, have conflicting opinions about Akito. I appreciate her willingness to improve herself, that she decided to make this huge change and be a better person. I find that really admirable, but at the same time, I hold it against her for hurting so many of these characters. I think what she did was terrible and wrong. I don't care that she had a traumatic upbringing and that led her to do what she did. It was still wrong of her to nearly kill so many of these characters. It doesn't make it okay. Just like for the same reason, even though I love Kyo, even though he had, you know, a traumatic upbringing, it doesn't make it okay for him to lash out at people. Like, I don't like that. But it's his willingness to change that makes him redeemable. And it's Akito's willingness to change that also makes her a little redeemable, you know? So that's how I feel about both of them. And I'm going to skip over this a little. Let me just see what the last paragraphs say. A few other small annoyances I have is Toru's mom, when looking at Kyo at her final moments, the only words she uttered out of her mouth, out of anything else, was the only thing Kyo could take as a bad misunderstanding. I will never forgive you. And because of that, Kyo now has more trauma to add to his never-ending list. It feels so forced. Another issue I had was how to break the curse. It just will eventually break. How was that the reason the bonds broke and some bonds broke before others? Was it because of love? That doesn't fully make sense with how Kureno broke first. We never know and are never told. It just goes away because of maybe the original promise that no one remembers and just happens to be brought up because it's the end of the story. Who remembered the original promise? Was it the narrator of the scene, Toru, or maybe the ghost of God that just came in memory to everyone? We don't know. We can only speculate. Okay, these are interesting points. The misunderstanding about Kyoko's actual meaning behind I will never forgive you is frustrating. Like, it was so frustrating that Kyo misunderstood that because it would have saved him so much heartache if he knew the actual meaning behind those words. Meaning, I will not forgive you if you are not there for Toru. That's all it meant. So I understand that frustration. We all felt that frustration. But at the same time, if not for that misunderstanding, Kyo wouldn't have had this incredible character development. So we kind of had to have that misunderstanding. But I know it would have saved him so much heartache, and that's infuriating to watch. And then they went on about how it didn't make sense for the curse to just break. Well, all along we know that the curse is slowly weakening, and we really never know why the curse is slowly weakening. So I understand that not making a lot of sense, but I kind of just took it as the way it is and how it was stated that the curse is slowly weakening and was alright with that. I didn't feel the need for such a grand explanation of why it was slowly weakening. It made sense to me, I guess. And who remembered the original promise? I'm sure some member of the family, like the older folks in the family know of the original story and the promise, and so they probably passed that down. I think it was just passed down from each generation what the promise was. I just assumed that's how it was, so that's probably how it was remembered. And I guess that's it. So yeah, that was really interesting to see negative reviews of Fruits Basket, which I love so much. I think the one that hurt the most was that review of season 1, where they just ripped the characters to shreds. I really didn't agree with anything about that review, except the point they made that the animation at times was a little weird. I agreed with that, but everything else, I was just like, what are you talking about? I didn't understand any of it. But the manga reviews were actually pretty valid, the ones I read. So yeah, this was fascinating. This was a fun video to do. I will be back with more Fruits Basket related videos. In the middle of all my book videos coming out, I still want to make Fruits Basket videos. So those will be coming out. If you're interested in seeing those and you're not subscribed to this channel, then go ahead and subscribe, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to give me a like. That would help a lot. Follow me on social media if you'd like to. Those links are in the description box, and I'll be back really soon. Bye!